Sunday. All right, this is gonna be fun, y'all. I had a little bit prepared, and I had a little bit more prepared. And prepared, by prepared, I mean, I said some stuff to myself, but I didn't really write it down. Looked some stuff up. Some of you, I think everybody here has heard Adam Says stuff before. So this will just kind of be an extended Adam Says stuff and kind of my story, because I think to talk about what we're talking about today, you kind of need to know where I'm coming from. Not that my way is the right way, but at least you understand why I'm saying some of the things that I'm saying. You know, with the upcoming move that everybody's incredibly excited about, or not, it's okay. I understand it's a weird thing. You know, I've been thinking a lot about that. I remember being at work. Actually, I wasn't at work at the time. I remember being somewhere and getting the email that the letter had come in from the landlord and all of this was going to happen. And I thought immediately, I didn't care about the building. I will tell you that my first thought was not about the building. My first thought was about this, us as individuals and corporately together. What happens to us? I know that James done this before. For some of you, the warehouse is your first experience with Simplicity. It's my first experience with Simplicity. Now, funny enough, I've known Iz since we were kids. I don't know that we knew each other as kids, but my mother actually used to work for Iz's father when he used to do television production. And so my mom was very involved in the ministry there at his church. And, you know, I was at church every time it was open, not just the Sundays and Wednesdays and all those other things, but because my mom was so involved with the fine arts ministry, every time there was a Christmas program or an Easter program or a special program that lasted months long or whatever else, I was there for rehearsals. I was there for performances. And so I grew up in the church. And I will tell you that none of the churches that I went to, this is not a I'm going to bash on church kind of day. I will tell you that they were all learning experiences. And while some of them were more positive learning experiences than others, I have grown and taken things from everywhere that I've been. And somewhere around 19, 20 years of age, I decided it was time to kind of go find my church. And I did that for a number of years. I would say up until about 3 years ago when I landed here at Simplicity, because my church was always someone else's church. It was where my parents were. It was where my brother and sister were. It was where, you know, someone who invited me, which is not a bad thing. Please do not take that the wrong way, but it was their church and I just happened to show up on a Sunday. And I went to church because church was what you did. Church was your Sunday thing. And you checked the box and then you went out to eat afterwards and you hope you got there before everybody else. And unfortunately, you let me talk, so you may, the Baptist might beat us there today. But, you know, the thing is even as a youngster, I had questions in church and no place to voice those questions. Now, I was involved in the youth group. I was involved in choirs. I was, for some reason, always cast as either the homeless person or the little beggar kid or something. All of the performances, I was always like the little dirty kid. I don't know what it was, but I always was. So I was very involved. Here it is for those of you that don't know, I was in a Christian heavy metal band for a while. I did sing. I do not play instruments at all. I toured with Godspell for about 3 weeks, Southern United States. So I knew what church was, but I didn't know what church was. I know Robbie has mentioned it. I know Richard has mentioned it. I know Israel's mentioned it. The word ecclesia. a gathering, a coming together. And a lot of times that word is translated into church, but not church as a building, although sometimes it is used as that, but church as a gathering place, church as us. I really, as I was sitting down here this morning, I halfway thought what I'm doing up here, I almost wanted, since there's not that many of us, I almost just wanted to kind of like do a little circle thing and just kind of like just sit down and not even be up here talking at you. Because I'm not adding anybody, I'm with all of you. Please understand that. It's a really cool opportunity to say some of the things that I'm saying. As a board member, I know that John has had the privilege and pleasure to work on the numbers. And while I love a good spreadsheet, some people excel at spreadsheets. See what I did there? Okay, see, I don't have slam poetry like Robbie, so I got to throw like dumb computer jokes out there. You know, I'm the encourager, I'm the cheerleader, I'm the lover, not a fighter kind of guy. And as you've heard me say in my Adam Says stuff before, that's where I am and that's where I'm coming from. And as I think about the upcoming move and the upcoming changes and the upcoming what ifs and what's next is sitting right here. What's next is not these walls and these floors and these chairs even. Growing up in the churches that I was in, if you weren't in the church building at a certain time in your specified pew, you weren't there. Now, I will tell you, I grew up in some pretty large churches and attended some pretty large churches. So most of the time, other than those few people that sat around you that would call you out, most people didn't know you were there or not. But why am I here? A little over 3 years ago, I was going through a lot personally. And I'm going to tell you, quite honestly, those of you that knew me in the very, very, very early stages of my attending Simplicity, I was incredibly broken. I was in a lot of pain, emotionally, spiritually, not so much physically, but I did not have my stuff together. But the church, not the warehouse building, the church surrounded me. I came to hear a guest speaker, not knowing that Jamie was here, not knowing that Israel was here. All I did was look up the address so I knew where to go. Mark Morris was here. Mark toured with me in Godspell. So I immediately kind of felt a connection. Plus, when you have kids that are on the LGBTQ spectrum, and people say that they accept or that they affirm or that they welcome, and that basically means you can get in the door and sit down, but that's not welcome. Certain groups aren't welcome. God forbid there's a parents of gay children group in the church of people trying to support one another. There was an amazing family that sat in front of us when we were at another church, and they actually left because, I mean, other than the conversations we would have together in the parking lot, that is all the support that they had. And there was a bunch of people at that church to support them. My kids were actually visiting their mom for spring break. And so they weren't here when I came to visit. And when they got back home, I said, guys, I went and checked this place out, and I really, please just go with me and give it a try. If you like it, cool. If you don't, cool. No, I mean, whatever. But please Just give it a shot. And they immediately, the first time, we didn't even get out the door, they said, this doesn't even feel like church. Now, some people would take that and say, oh, it doesn't feel like church, but you're at church. I think that's the problem with church, is that we make it feel like church, but it's not what the church was ever designed to be. I love that some of you here today do not call this church. Now, even though it's Simplicity Christian Church. Okay, we get that. We get the big name. It's kind of like having an AKC registered dog. It's like I'm the best poodle, Frank, but really you just call him Frank, kind of that thing. To some of you, this is a gathering. To some of you, this is family. To some of you, this is home. To some of you, insert your word. It's more than the walls that surround us. Whether we're here, whether we're on a farm playing donkey dong bingo, whether we're at Solos listening to Jamie play and eating some amazing patty melts and having a beverage that wasn't quite made right, so it was a little strong. We won't talk about that. Yes, at least they yeah, yes. I love the fact that we can come together, that we can gather together, that we can laugh, that we can cry, that we can hurt, that we can question, that we can be honest, that we can be hopeful, and know that there is still a future for Simplicity. Regardless of if it's in a warehouse, at Solos, in another building, at Chuck E. Cheese, wherever, we are the church. Now, again, if you don't use the word church, that's okay. That's totally okay. Because there's a lot of baggage with that word. And for some, that's a very heavy word and a very painful word. Because of some of my questions growing up in church, I kind of entered into what many of us call the deconstruction process. Because, it just didn't line up with the Jesus that I was reading about. What was being said from up here to me down here was not the Jesus I was reading about. Okay? It was about who I was voting for. It was about what I was voting for. It was about only certain ones get in and others are left out. This is a total sidebar, but not, because I have thought back to this so many times recently. I remember being in a specific church and the whole thing being talked to about, if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus Christ is Lord, you shall be saved. And I thought about friends and family members that had lost the ability to speak. Does that mean they're out? Because they say they cannot verbalize that they believe it? This whole thing, some of you may be familiar with age of accountability and that whole thing. Well, huge blessing in my life. In the past week, I started a new job. And I am also now an instructor. I am working with adults with special needs and teaching life skills and computer and technology skills. And I have never felt so much love in my entire life from a group of people that didn't know me one day, and they had my name down, and I am still trying to figure out a lot of theirs, and we have so much fun with it. To the young lady that came up to me and put her arms around me and said, "Mine," told the other teachers. And I said, "It's okay." And they said, "She's yours now." So to the gentleman that was talking about one of the other teachers being his little sister, I said, "Well, yeah, she's littler than he is," but they explained it that his birthday was February 7th and her birthday was February 27th. So he was the big brother. And I said, "Well, you know what, Keith? My birthday's February 6th. So what about that?" And he said, "You're my big brother." Now, one of the amazing things about where I'm at is every Wednesday they do a chapel. It is a faith-based community. They bring in different people to speak, to pray, to sing. And I'm telling you, you want to talk about a group of singers. You get 40 to 60 adults with special needs in a room smaller than this and a guy playing a guitar. It's going to be some music going on. And it is beautiful. I was talking to the pastor that had come to speak just this past Wednesday, and he's like, "I love them. I this, that, the other." And I said, "You know, they have a lot to teach us about how we love. They don't care what I'm wearing. They don't care that my ears pierced or that I have a tattoo." Although one did ask me where she could go get a tattoo as good as mine, and I thought that was kind of cool. So then I was like, wait, should I be writing down my tattoo artist information, giving it to these people? All of this story circles back to a reason. I remember at a very young age sitting in a pew at a church, looking at the stage and thinking about my friend in elementary school that had Down syndrome. And wondering if he could make the decision that was prescribed by my church so that he didn't go to hell. Could he jump through the hoops that it took so that I would know him forever? And I've carried that with me for so long. Now, I've read enough about it and I know enough about it and I've talked to enough people and I'm good and I'm fine with all of that now. But it tore me up, and it wasn't just him. I worked in hospice for 6 years. 23-year-old man, literally weeks away from death. And his mother and father, who were separated, his father was arguing that he had to go to his church 2.5 hours away to be baptized in his church, or he was going to hell. Now, this man had all of his mental faculties about him. He was born with significant physical ailments. And at 23, he was looking at the last days of his life. And I asked him one day when I was there, I said, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "It's one thing about what your mom thinks, it's one thing about what your dad thinks, but what do you think?" And he said, "I've already been baptized." And I said, "Did it take?" And he said, "I don't know, I guess." And I said, "Are you worried about this?" He goes, "Nope, not at all." And I said, "You know what? Let's look out your window." They lived in some apartments in Norman. I said, "Let's look out your window." I said, "From your window, I can see 4 churches of 4 different denominations. And I know for a fact they will all baptize you a different way. Now, they may use the same words, but you're going to get sprinkled or you're going to get dunked or you're going to get whatever. Which one is right?" And he said, "I don't think the water really matters." And I agreed with him. That man died in peace. Now, I know part of it was his father trying to satisfy what he had been told. And the fact that he's never going to see his son again because we've got these rules that say if you don't do this and you don't do that, you don't go to a certain kind of building. These are not pews. I'm sorry, we are not a church. These are not pews. You know, we use Hawaiian bread and Welch's instead of, you know, whatever. Really, folks? I loved during COVID when we would do Zoom and seeing what people came up with for the table. I mean, sometimes it was goldfish. I mean, I'm not even going to go into the list of it, but it was great because it was a shared meal. It wasn't what we were eating or what we were drinking. It wasn't if we were still in our pajamas or if we had already had a shower and we're dressed up and we're sitting in our car. It was a shared meal. And I can tell you, going back to the early days of me being here at Simplicity and my brokenness, some people that have moved on because they've moved out of state, because they've, you know, for whatever reason, changed my life for the better. I can tell you, Jamie and Catherine, and I've told them this, but I'm going to say it out loud. My porch therapy sessions with Jamie and Catherine, some of them, and I'm not doing this to be overly emotional. Some of them were life and death porch sessions. I am as serious as I can possibly be right now. And knowing that someone would say, come by when you get off work, on your lunch break, whatever, just come by and let's just talk. Having a table that's open and allowing every kind of bird to eat and to drink. Not coerced, not forced, but open and welcome. If you are hungry, if you are thirsty, come and eat, come and drink. I remember there was one time, another fabulous, amazing, wonderful couple that's not here right now. They were sitting in the back, and she had come forward and he did not. And again, like we said, no big deal. He didn't. I always did. I'm telling you, this table is a huge part of my life. I mean, if we just showed up at Solo's and said, hey, here's some juice and bread, get in your car and leave, cool, I'm down. You know, it's that important to me. And I think because it was withheld from so many and so many of the other churches that I was at, that's why it means so much to me now. But that Sunday, probably 2 years ago, I remember not going forward, going back and sitting next to that gentleman and putting my arm around him and saying, I wanted to see what it was like to do communion the way you do it. I was every bit as blessed and filled that morning as I was coming up and having some bread and grape juice. That we are the church. We are Simplicity. I know that you've heard a lot from board members and leaders the past couple of weeks about the upcoming move and how excited we are and how there's this going on. And, you know, that doesn't mean that we still don't need, you know, tithes and offerings. And I'm not going to get into all of that because again, that's not really my road. While I understand it, that's not my road. That's not my heart. That's not my thing. My thing is that all of you here play a part. All of you here play a part. All of you watching play a part. in the future of simplicity. Whether it's music, whether it's books, whether it's mats, whether it's cleaning, whether it's hacking, whether it's attending, whether it's serving, whether it's having someone come to your house for a meal and not even talking about God. Wow. Could that be the church? It really could be. And it really is. Let's be purposeful when we gather. Whether here for the next few weeks, whether at solos, no matter where we may be, let us be purposeful as we gather, being the church. I've heard it said, and it's kind of cheesy. I thought about it this morning. I'm like, do I even want to say that? But it makes sense. You know, it's been said, you may be the only Bible some people read. You may be the only Jesus some people see. It's true. And the problem is the Jesus that I was seeing from a lot of pulpits, a lot of stages, a lot of sacred desks was not the Jesus I was reading about. And yet, I personally have found a place that the Jesus that I know and the Jesus that I read about and the Jesus that we talk about, very close to the same dude. Now, does that mean I agree 100% absolutely with every single thing that Israel's ever said? No. Sorry. It's truth. And I don't think you should either. But again, that's what makes this amazing, is because we don't all have to agree with the same stuff. We are open to our own interpretations. We are open to our own understandings. We are open to our own research and growth. We're not all at the same place in our growth and development in this journey. And that's okay. Some of us just found out we're big brothers. Okay? There are some that have worked long and hard to develop an amazing foundation for what simplicity is, so that simplicity can move forward regardless of a building, regardless of whether every chair is full or there's just a few of us. And there are times that I think some of us are far enough along on that journey. It's time for some of us to start stepping in and holding those others up and being those people that, I'm going to say it, that take out the trash and sweep the floors for Charlie. I remember the first Pride Parade, and I'm not going to talk about passing out in front of the underwear store. That's another story. But the first Pride Parade I was at, and Charlie's carrying the banner, and I'm like, dude, you need me to get that? Nope, got it. Need me to get that? Nope, got it. Matter of fact, I think you need to sit down on that trailer for a while. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm running from side to side, handing out candy, everything else. Charlie walks that parade with that banner the whole time. I'm like, no, I got this. I got it. No, go. Just keep going, Charlie's. And I sit on the trailer. I'm pouring water on my head and everything else. And then once it's all said and done, I do pass out from the underwear store, but that's a different story. It's a fun story, but different story. But the fact is there are sometimes we need to come alongside those who have gone before and set the foundations. We need to come alongside with our gifts, our talents, our loves, and share with our body and share with our families. Sometimes it may just be a text of encouragement. Sometimes it may be, hey, let's go have coffee. Let's talk through some stuff. One thing that I have never had happen in the entire time that I've been here at Simplicity is if I reach out, there's always someone on the other end. Always. There has always been someone on the other end. Let's be that person for someone else. Okay? Again, it's not about a building. It's not. I for one, when I found out that we were doing that we were going to be meeting at Solos, I was stoked. I mean, I'd only been a couple of times, and mainly it was every time Jamie was playing, which, funny backstory, Jamie knows this. When I first came that first Sunday and Jamie was up here on stage, I was like, wait, I know that guy. I saw him at Full Circle Bookstore playing acoustic sets. Wait, I just bought 2 of his CDs from Vintage Stock. Wait, it's like, wait, this is like totally tripping me out. And Jamie's up here and I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. The connections that we make here continue. When I found out that we were going to Solos, this is the point that I was trying to make. I was excited because of the visibility of Solos, the difference, the novelty. I've been telling people, I'm like, we're going to meet at a dog park with a bar. How cool is that? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. And some people, I said, yeah, we're with Simplicity. And they already knew. They said, you're the ones that are going to Solos. I'm like, who told you? Who do you know? And come to find out, they were, okay, these people I had known are family with people from Simplicity, and I had never put that 2 and 2 together. It's exciting. It's an exciting time. It's a, it's kind of like this week starting at work. What if? What's it going to look like? What's it going to sound like? What am I going to do? What if I don't get this done? What if it doesn't? One of the things that I love that we do in the afternoons, typically after lunch break, is we do like soft music and breathing exercises just to kind of get everybody just brought back down before we go to our second half of the day. And some of those adults, I mean, they soak it in. Some of them fall asleep. Some of the teachers fall asleep. But I think sometimes we just need to take a deep breath. There's a lot going on. But there's a lot of really good stuff going on. And a lot of good stuff up ahead for all of us. Stay in the saddle if you ride horses. If you don't, I don't even know what that means. I don't ride horses. I don't ride motorcycles. I don't ride horses. So that thing, that's just one of those things. It's like, say that, you know, what does that even mean? Stay engaged. Stay with us. Be a part. Be that unique part that only you can be. The body of Christ is a body made up of individual parts to make one corporate whole. We are the body of Christ. Some are eyes, some are ears, some are hands, some are feet, etc., etc. be that person that you were created to be the church.